And now, please give a warm welcome to Ivan Gaskin.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can set up right quick. How's everybody doing this morning? Come on, man, I need a whole lot more energy than that. I promise you I'm not playing. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Shake it out, shake it out. I know y'all been sitting for a minute. Here we go. And actually, when it comes to an audience, right, there's a lot more of an intimate feeling that you get when you're actually involved. So there's 3 things I'm going to ask of you all today, right? I've prepared for this speech, right? So you have my full attention. I'm asking from it for you, all right? Number 1, I will be honest with my past. Say it after me, right? I will be honest with my past. I set y'all up for failure. Here we go. I will be honest with my present. And I will be honest about my future. What do you mean, how I was taught to hate black people? Yeah, buddy, I'm kind of going to have to deny that. Matter of fact, who even allowed you to be able to get on stage and say that? I thought this event was supposed to be about uniting the races so one day we could just ride off into the sunset all in the same lane. I mean, wasn't that your king's dream? Never mind the starting place. Why? Why do you always want to talk about hate? Did it ever occur to you that maybe if we don't talk about it, it'll all just go away? Shh. Why do you always want to talk about hatred? Call me a racist. I'm not. I come to stuff like this. Not me. I'm not them. I don't want to make America great again. Plus, I even have a black friend. And I know that we're really cool, right? Because he even let me touch his hair last weekend. Y'all got mad at that one. I even invited Tyrone to my wedding. Or, what's his name, James? Don't look at me like that. Stop the judgment. You know just as well as I do. Don't they all kind of look the same? Ooh, okay. So what if I told a little white lie? That's a whole lot better than the dark black truth, right? Oh, what? What's wrong? When a white man is honest on stage, it makes you uncomfortable. So, allow me to paint the picture like this sweet white baby Jesus that sits up in your kitchen. I mean, first of all, I did not pay to listen to this nonsense. I don't hate black people, but if I did, it's for good reason. Let's be honest. It seems the most black people hate themselves. Have you seen TV? Grabbing their crotches and screaming and hollering about how they are willing to kill each other. But I hate black people. I'll have you know that 99.99999% of all crimes are committed by blacks against whites. Oh. Now, to be clear, we are responsible for our fair share, too, of our 0.00000 none%, right? However, all of those are of the white collar type and thus not available for comparison. Now, yes, you may ask me about my facts. No, I didn't Google them because I know they're true. How do I know? I watch the news, right? You should try it sometime because that's also where I see that blacks are responsible for 138% of global poverty, right? What you thought a welfare queen wasn't a real thing just because Obama got up and made a speech, as the blacks say, please. Now, I wasn't going to go here. I wasn't going to make it this honest, but since we're talking about it, let's do it. I work hard to send my kids to private school. If I can, they can too. What do you mean, watch the news? Oh, my people weren't persecuted enough? Look at the Jews. And one more thing, I am so sick and tired of hearing about slavery. Slavery was over in 1863. You know how many years ago that was? Like 150. So what do you mean? I was never your master. You were never my slave. So if you think that I have been taught to hate black people, damn it, you need to explain. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My name is Ivan Gaskin. Y'all can sit down. Because this is what we're talking about today. By no means should this be comfortable subject matter. And if you are not uncomfortable, I did not do my job. Because actually there's something wrong with you guys, right? You all came to a session about how it is that you were taught to hate black people. Before we get started, I want to thank everybody who had anything to do with putting this event on. A special shout out to Kathy Coffey, wherever she went. She was right there. Kathy Coffey in the back, and everyone else from the police department to the mayor's office to Lynnwood, Snohomish County, whoever touched this event. This is an amazing opportunity to have this audience of people who are interested in hearing about these topics. These are things that need to be discussed in our world, and we don't have spaces to thoroughly examine what is our past, what are we currently, and what does the future look like. So, to begin, let's start off with a little good old American segregation. I need all my people who were born between the months January and June on the right-hand side of the room, because this is where it gets interesting, right? And everyone, before you move, everybody who were not born in those other months on the left-hand side of the room. Now, my left, your right. I'm going to point again. Here we go. January, June, there. Just give me 1 second before you move. June, January, there. Now, I have in my hand $100 bill. Dollar bill, y'all, all right? What we're getting ready to do, right, is an experiment. This is a competition, all right? I'm a very competitive individual. I like to see people go hard. So what you're going to do, right, you have your team. This is your team, and there's value associated with how you perform. I need you to get to know your team members in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to put it on a clock, right? You need to make friends, establish connections, because you will be tested on how well you know the individuals in this room. Once again, I'm going to be putting you in a team. You have 5 minutes to get to know each other, and then we're going to come back and move on with the session. So, thank you. January, June, here. The rest of y'all over here. Where's the Jeopardy music? Do, 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 do. Dollar bill, y'all. Two minutes left. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Yes, please. 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Yes, please. Thank you. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Hello. All right, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. Come back, come back. I need you. Need your attention, please. All right, all right, all right, all right. We're getting ready to bring it back. We're getting ready to bring it back. If you can hear me, clap your hands. That was terrible. That was just one time. Here we go. Can you hear me clap your hand once? Can you hear me? Clap your hands twice. Can you hear me clap your hands 3 times? All right, here we go. That worked. So, today, right, I don't know. Can somebody on the left-hand side tell me what's going on? It looks like you guys are just way more organized. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Can you be the spokesperson? All right, what's going on the left-hand side? Okay, that's a great thing. So since you guys have spent so much time, all my people on the right, you guys know each other really well because the last 5 minutes, right, you guys are great friends. I need somebody on the left-hand side to actually talk to me about my friend Michelle. Who wants the $100? Go ahead. $100, right? All right, come on, step right up. Somebody. Please, can both of you all come up on stage? I need my volunteers, right? Probably not. No, so here we go, right? Now, in life, when we talk about hatred, right, can somebody, my beautiful people, since you are such a brave volunteer, can you read the definition of hate as defined by Merriam-Webster?
Hate, noun often attributive, intense hostility and aversion, usually deriving from fear, anger, or sense of injury.
Fear, anger, and sense of injury. Okay. So, now that you know everybody on that side, right, I need you to actually talk to me about somebody over here. It's not from your group that doesn't necessarily share this experience that you guys just had of lining up along the wall. So what can you tell me about Michelle?
I can tell you that Michelle is an intelligent woman.
What makes you think that?
She came here.
Okay. That's solid. That's solid, but that's still an assumption. I mean, like, what would you tell me about Michelle, like if I was your kid, right?
I can tell you that Michelle has straight brown hair.
Straight brown hair. Okay, that's dope.
Wearing jeans.
Jeans.
Kicking boots.
Kicking boots. I think that's like a compliment. Do you kick people with kicking boots?
You can, if you need to.
What else can you tell me about Michelle's person?
She has a nice smile.
Nice smile. Okay. What about her character?
I cannot tell you about her character.
You can't tell me about her character.
I can tell you she appears
to
be friendly.
Appears to be friendly.
Smiling. Her eyes are interested.
Okay. Could you tell me anything about her level of truthfulness? Her proclivity to commit a crime?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. What about, I guess, maybe some of the things that she's come from in her background? Could you tell me about her history, her family?
Nope.
Why is that?
Because what you appear is not your history.
What you appear is not your history. What else? How else could you say that?
How you appear, your physical self does not explain your cultural or your background.
Now, is that true in our society today?
No.
Oh, so for a second, right? I know everybody in here is like saved in terms of like racism. Like you guys are like the equivalent of like a saved person, but you're not racist. Like if you just saw Michelle, right? I need you to be real with me on stage, right? Have you ever had any stereotypes, maybe about women, maybe about women of her height, or women that wear kicking boots, or maybe whatever race or anything that you might be willing to share?
About Michelle?
about someone that looks like Michelle? Because you don't know Michelle.
Right. No.
Oh, okay.
I can pick somebody else out and tell you. But
All right, talk about it.
No.
Pick somebody else. No, since we're going to do that. Well, you spoke too soon. Here we go. Come on. We're getting to the end.
Well, I've not had, to me, Michelle is neutral.
There's $100 on the line.
know,
I need you to give me something.
I'm
Commit.
gonna give you something.
Commit.
Because she's neutral.
Neutral? How? What? Why is she neutral?
I'll tell you. Because she can appear Latina. She can appear potentially Asian.
So if she was Latina, what does that mean?
She could be Mexican. She could.
What does that mean?
What is being from Mexico?
What I'm saying is you said she's neutral, as in her race being neutral. If she's neutral because of her race, if she were, like, let's say hypothetically, to commit, what implications are tied to being associated with a certain race? If she's black, does that mean she's not neutral no more?
In this country, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So for me, neutral means I'm not putting her in one of the boxes of the race classes that we know, because I don't know which one. I would have to talk to her to know that.
Okay. Well, thank you, man. What's your name?
Annie.
Annie. I appreciate you. Go ahead, Sam. No. Second. I had to. So everybody can sit down in the closest seat to you. Basically what this whole exercise is about is we're talking about how is it that within these groups do we come to understand where hate comes from? How do we understand our groups that we're tied to? And when we're inside these groups, right, we spend our time in the same communities. We spend our time hearing the same stories, watching the same TV, right? If you go through any segment of your day, for the majority of Americans, you spend time around the same people. And the reason that this is interesting and something that we need to focus on is because when it comes to hate, right, and aversion, usually deriving from fear, anger, a sense of injury, what we're going to be talking about today is how only through continued interaction and context can you ever provide enough perspective for you not to hate. We look at hate as this thing that just happens, right? Somebody was born that way. No. People who hate typically do not have the full picture of what it is someone else can be. Now, we talk about this in spaces like this because it's important. It's cool. You all believe that this is something that is real. But how real can it get when these things are allowed to go on silently? I need a volunteer. Somebody close. Okay. Excuse me, ma'am. Could you come up on stage real quick? I'll come to you. I need you to read alligator bait. You can use all the words in there.
Oh, okay. I got permission. Alligator bait. Alligator hunting was very profitable in the 1800s and 1900s. The skins were used to make shoes, bags, belts, and other items. However, white hunters often lost their arms and sometimes their lives as they rustled the swampy waters at night attempting to attract alligators to surface. So they decided to use slave babies as bait. This horrendous act was later characterized in sheet music, postcards, and figurines. Years later, a candy manufacturer of black licorice drops created a distasteful advertisement that featured a hungry-looking alligator leering at a bug-eyed black baby. The ad read, "A dainty little morsel." For decades, the popular candy was referred to as nigger babies. The name was later changed to Nibs and is still on the market today. Lest we forget, Black Holocaust Museum.
Thank you, ma'am.
Don't put the ER on it.
So, when I was putting this project together, to me, this is, for me personally, the most disgusting thing that really I'm aware of being tied to American slavery in the South. When you talk about letting human dignity fall to a level in which the most innocent part of our society is literally used as alligator bait, sentenced to the most dramatic and horrific death that you can imagine. Right? How do you get there? How does that happen? We talk about these different nuances, these perspectives about who it is that we are, and colorism, these shades, all of these different little things. However, when they add up and we don't have time to justify these perspectives, write them, we don't have a full context to create what the world around us looks like. When you don't have perspective, you can begin to start taking away little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. This is not something that happened overnight, because the people who did this thought that this was kind of like, has anybody ever taken a vacation? Raise your hand. I mean, I know that like, this is like 2018, so like I've never sent a postcard, but like posted on Instagram from where you were. This was the Instagram post. This was the Instagram post. This was the postcard. It came with a nice little sweet message, and these are not what you would call bad people, right? It's hard to say that, but this was so normalized, so regular, that this was literally tied to candy. Candy. So what we're going to talk about is how do we get there as a country? So American history. For all my history buffs, right? Some of these years are kind of like relative, because some people say slavery ended in 1865. Anybody knows anything about Juneteenth, it was definitely later than that. And if anybody knows anything about like African-American communities, that's very debatable. So when we talk about American history, 1619, it says 1625 there, about 265 years. A lot of times we hear this whole statement around how long it's been since slavery. When we talk about an American history, this timeline clearly shows you that slavery goes 265 years, right? Segregation, 99 years. And then we're quote unquote free for the last 54 years, unless you're in Starbucks, or I mean, I'll leave that there. Just to provide a little bit more context, 1865, how many people know what happened in 1865? Whoa. Civil War ended, thank you. So Emancipation Proclamation, a document that actually freed the slaves, signed in 1863. Lincoln, 1865, when the war is actually over, this can be enforced. Not all the way enforced in Texas till 1867. So slavery in its current, or in its previous form, was over 1867. Then you have what's called the Reconstruction. In this Reconstruction period, blacks begin to hold positions that they never had before. So we're talking about legislative positions, judges, mayors, different positions of power, creating financial stability. However, this was met with the enforcement of the spike of the KKK, right? Black codes. This is providing context for where a lot of these different super ingrained elements of our society have come from. So when we look at this, right, 1865, there's been a population that for the last 300 years just about has been kept uneducated and does not have a means of providing for themselves. They're now introduced into the workforce. So regular white people, right, scared because they're getting ready to lose their job. A little bit better than average white people are scared because now these blacks are getting ready to move north. They're going to be in your home with your daughter around you, right? No, we don't want that. And elite whites are now entirely afraid because not only have they lost their number one source of financial security, but now these blacks are going to destroy the economy, right? These blacks are not human. They're just, imagine if a zoo just let out a whole bunch of gorillas and now they're just going to be around tearing stuff up. The jails will be full. These are where the ideas that were circulating around the time that what we're getting ready to talk about began. How many people are familiar with eugenics? Okay. Half the woke crowd. Okay, somebody, you raised your hand? Go ahead, tell me. I got the answer on the screen if you don't really know.
Well, I could just read the answer.
That's dope. I'll help you out, man. Look.
The practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations as by sterilization to improve the population's genetic composition. Started by Margaret Sanger or something.
Ooh, I wasn't even gonna drop
now called Planned Parenthood.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I took it out of the presentation. But here we go. Real life. Took the whole slide out. But thank you for that. So eugenics. Moving on. How many people are familiar with Charles Darwin? Right, he's kind of like a pretty big guy. Right, anybody familiar with like evolution, like that whole thing, survival of the fittest? That's that guy, right? We always focus on like we were once monkeys and then we started walking around and then like we're here now. But most people missed like the transition between the last black dude and like the white guy. No, y'all are laughing. You have never seen that before. Moving on. Charles Darwin is most famous for his composition of The Origin of Species, right? Origin of Species is essentially his work that details what happened around evolution, what species are around today, and how it is that they got here. Survival of the fittest, the one's ability to adapt to any environment. This is Charles Darwin's Origin of Species. Most people are familiar if they are in any sort of scientific field that studies the evolution of life. However, what most people don't know is that on The Origin of Species, the original title was The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or The Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Ooh, didn't know about that. Second, I'm playing. Moving right along. When it comes to what time period we're talking about, this is where eugenics becomes something that is intrinsically ingrained in the white elite, not only in America, but around the world. These are actual scientific documents that your most elite scientists are studying about what is truth in terms of our human composition. It's not that blacks are a different type of human. No, black people are entirely, so Hottentot is a term that was used to refer to people of African descent. If you kind of see, take a moment. I know that some of that is little for you in the back. You have an orangutan, a chimpanzee, a gorilla. The Australian, speaking about Aborigines. The Hottentot, which is a black African person. Chinese, and then you have Caucasian, which is supposed to be the highest form of life. So when you talk about population and sterilization, population control, these things are implemented to make sure that survival of the fittest is ensured. You have all of these freed slaves, right? They are of a lower caste. Now we can no longer enslave them. They are no longer necessary. Therefore, these conversations begin to start around how can we get rid of blacks in America. Now, a lot of these are not necessarily talked about. However, the actual U.S. Congress had discussions about sending blacks back to Africa, colonization. This is something that was actually discussed in an open forum and was legitimized. It's like, hey, maybe we just put them all on a boat, send them all to Liberia. It proved to be unworkable, which is why I'm still here. Moving right along. This is another example of how this pseudoscientific method was used to justify the cruelties against blacks around the world. Now, as we're getting ready to go into this, what I want to make sure that we're focused on is where does hate come from, right? We have things like Charlottesburg, right? This is not something that we can just throw out as if, no, those people over there, they're just backwards. No, this is something that was systemically ingrained in science. If you read books, this is what you see. You see this progression from an ape to a black dude. I think the Negroid or Negro is right there. It's very hard to see. I do apologize. But you have monkey, black dude, white man. And this is what scientists are studying and what people know to be true. So, moving right along. When we talk about this, it doesn't just show up in things that have happened back then. When it talks about what are our perceptions of what black is, a lot of times these things are diminished. Now, how many people are familiar with the different types of projections of maps? Throw your hands up if you don't know. It's cool, I ain't gonna call on nobody, you can cheat. Mercator projection, right? Great for sailing. The Mercator projection is the one that was in your school textbook, but basically it made Africa look like this little rock you could just kind of kick out the way, right? Greenland is the size of Africa on a Mercator projection, and thus diminishing the importance in terms of size. We're humans, right? We see tall people and we pay attention. We see big things and we're like, what's that moving, right? When we make sure that we reduce the size of anything that's black or brown, subconsciously, these are things that are conditioning us to believe that it is of lower importance. Now, when we look at a Peters projection, right? It's like, nah, that can't be right. There's no way Africa's actually that big, right? No way. No way. Now, it's very, very tough to actually put on a flat surface a spherical object. So once again, just to throw out to scientists, it is tough to do. However, that's not going to get it. And the reason we talk about this is because it's all based on perspective, and I'm trying to create a picture of the perspective at the time. Because what that perspective looks like, right? You say, oh, he messed up. He put his slide upside down. What's going on? We are in space, people, right? There's no up. There's no up. I'm so serious. Why have you never seen a map that looks like that? You mean like I'm up right now? It's a circle. So the fact that if you were to put this map in other places, you have to ask naturally more questions about Africa, Australia, Brazil, South America. And then all these European countries are off down to the bottom right. What do you mean? We can't have that. We got to pay attention to them. They have to be someplace where we can see. But we don't study anything like this because at the time, right, the things that are important are put toward the top. In our mind, we say north is better, north is good, north is up. There's no up. This is space. So moving right along to how does this actually affect the way things were done at the time as we continue to progress? Anybody know or familiar with Madison Grant? I'll give you a hint. You can raise your hand if you've ever heard of Oda Banger. Ooh, really? Oh, man. What y'all do in high school? Oh, you went through that whole 500-page textbook and never heard about this. So, Madison Grant is an individual who is the treasurer of the Zoological Society who actually had the opportunity to press the button on authorizing a museum at the Bronx Zoo. And we're getting ready to get to that in a moment. But Madison Grant is a eugenist. When we talked about Margaret Sanger, I didn't talk about Margaret Sanger. When Margaret Sanger's name was brought up, eugenics is where a lot of this came from. And Madison Grant, member of the Eugenics Society, who, once again, getting back to what are we actually talking about, is a member who believes, as is stated, and believes internally that blacks either need to go back to Africa or be reduced to a level of population where they can be either utilized or destroyed. That's it. Now, this is an individual that is not in fringe society as we see today, right? They say, since we're being honest, right, as long as they're in Kentucky, as long as they're in Virginia, as long as they're in Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, right, they don't touch us here in the Northwest. No, this is the one who is in the boardroom, in the back room, who can say, hey, you know what, I'm on the society, I'm on the board. Like, I tell you what you see in the zoo. Now, Oda Banger, I need a volunteer. Oh, y'all don't want to volunteer after she had to read what she did. I need somebody else, somebody else. Come on, what's going on? Man, what's your name? Kathy, talk to the people, Kathy.
You want me to read that?
It's a little small. I'll help you wherever you get it.
Okay. Bushman shares a cage with Bronx Park apes. Some laugh over his antics, but many are not pleased. Keeper frees him at times. Then, with bow and arrow, the pygmy from the Congo takes to the woods. There was an exhibition at the Zoological Park in the Bronx yesterday, which had for many of the visitors something more than a provocation to laughter. There were laughs enough in it too, but there was something about it which made the serious-minded grave. Even those who laughed the most turned away with an expression on their faces, such as one sees after a play with a sad ending or a book in which the hero or heroine is poorly rewarded. Something about it that I don't like, was the way one man put it. The exhibition was that of a human being in a monkey cage. The human being happened to be a bushman.
All right, so thank you, Kathy. Story of Oda Banger. Oda Banger is a pygmy. I believe at this time in 1906, he is about 23 years old. If you guys don't know, I'm 24. So last year, well, like 2-3 months ago, they had me on display in the zoo. Where people come, they throw stuff at you, they feed me, right? Putting me in a zoo. And we think today, no, that's so long ago. Like 1906, you know that's not that long ago, right? Then you say, well, that was just that one guy, that one time. No. This was something that happened around the world. This is actually a picture of what happened in the Congo when you actually see black kids on display. This is in the Belgian Congo, kind of like you see in a petting zoo. You know, you go around, you touch the donkeys and like the little fish in the little pond, right? You just rub a little head, like get a little nap on you, and call it a day. Now, when we talk about these things, right, we understand that it's wrong. We know that it's wrong, but we don't know the progression of where it came from. How many people can tell me, right, from context clues about the first genocide of the 20th century? Where did the Nazis strike first? Come on, man. Somebody got to know. Somebody has to know in this room where Nazi Germany, you've heard about the Holocaust, 6 million Jews. You've heard everything. You've seen all the movies, the shows, World War II movies. You can't tell me you don't know about where they struck first. Nobody. Where? Ethiopia? That's actually not where I was going, and maybe that's right, but the first genocide? No. I'm saying they were in Ethiopia. And when you say first, it depends on how you want to measure it, but the first genocide of the 20th century was in Namibia. Now, you talk about Namibia, right? If you talk about the concentration camps, what happened during the Jewish Holocaust, where people were loaded up on trains, taken to camps where they were actually exterminated, right? Experimented on. We talk about these horrors. However, they were trained here. So we talked about Madison Grant. How many people have ever heard the name Heinrich Himmler? So we know about him. This is his training ground. This is where he got his stripes. Heinrich Himmler was first employed in Namibia. He learned his tactics in Namibia, Shark Island. Now, you cannot see, but this is an overview of Luderich, right? That sounds like Guggenheim. Around 1905, 1906, Shark Island extermination camp, top left corner. You can also see where Namibians are loaded up on trains, sent to concentration camps, and killed. Same people, same action, same time period, but you have never heard of it. You've never heard of it. And this is an entire race of people damn near extinct. Like, here we go. When you talk about Heinrich Himmler, blacks should only be allowed to survive as long as they are of use to the Aryan race. These are not things that were just thrown out. These are not things that were racist comments. This is not, can I touch your hair? This is a fundamental belief that I'm going to carry out. I am a crusader to make sure that I eradicate the dark from this earth. And this is what these people are doing. They see this as a good thing because they're experimenting on heads. They are actually doing all these horrific experiments on living people. Right? And we say, how could this be so evil? We talk about the evil that took place, but it's still comfortable because we know the Germans are crazy. I mean, I know that's terrible, right? But we talk about World War II and we separate ourselves. We say, they did that over there. But we came in, we were the good guys, Normandy, right? We came in to save the day. However, what does this say? Howell University is a German university. Course said, be based on American models. Howell University, August 1st, the first lecture course on race hygiene for physicians to be given at the German Institution of Higher Learning was opened in Howell University today. Dr. Kurtner, who is in charge, told the auditors what followed. The American Pathfinders, Madison Grant. I thought we just talked about him. Isn't he an American? Hold on, wait, time out. You mean to tell me that the Nazis studied us? Wait, hold on, man, I gotta sit down. Shit. The Nazis studied our model. You mean all they had to do was New Germany said he would actually carry that out. So everything we talked about, Germany just actually did. So stop thinking about what they did over there. That's not me, that's not us. No, they studied here. They said, damn, that's pretty good. We got to figure it out. We rule the blueprint. And then, as time goes on, and this clicker works, can somebody help me out? Up, back. Come on, man. I don't point it every which way. Can somebody give me another clicker or click the slide? Thank you. Damn. Here we go. So, once again, it's always comfortable to have this conversation about what happened in Namibia because you've never been to Namibia. Right? If you've been to Namibia, it was on a mission trip and you're one of them anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not here, right? Germany, that's not here. Well, what is he talking about now? Damn. Somebody else. I need somebody who can read real good. All right, here we go.
You want to read the title too?
Go ahead.
A Brief for Sterilization of the Feeble-Minded by Dr. William L. Hutton. It is...
Just real quick for accuracy, these are two different things. That is not tied to this directly.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right. Never mind. Disregard. It is better for all the world to... What? Okay. Are you ready? Okay. It is better for all the world to, instead of executing degenerate offerings for crime or letting them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those that are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbecile are enough.
All right. That's cool, because I don't know no imbeciles anyway. I've never called anybody an imbecile. What kind of name is that? I don't know. My fault. Did you say Oliver Wendell Holmes? I did. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Supreme Court, U.S. Justice. That's us. That's us, if you ain't know. That's what us stand for. U.S. us. All right. 1927. So, what do you mean a brief for sterilization? You mean like not letting people have kids no more? You mean like a hysterectomy? Like taking away a woman's ability to reproduce? Like you can say that for another person? I didn't know this was a thing. Hold on, you mean the U.S. Supreme Court said it was okay to take away another person? Like, is this for citizens or is this for like aliens or something? Like for animals? Hold on, wait. As long as you're an imbecile, a moron, feeble-minded, or unfit. These are terms that were used to invoke forced sterilization from 1907, debatably, to 1986, and then it kind of happened again, like on accident in 2014 in California State Prison. So, and once again, for accuracy, this was not only for black people, this was just mainly almost like 99.999% for black people. They had to like throw one in every time to make sure it didn't look too bad. And once again, that's not to disrespect anyone who was affected. There were many communities affected by forced sterilization. And when it comes to that, this was coming directly out of the tradition of eugenics. I don't want to distract from the point of the message, so we won't get too deep into the connections of other organizations that may still be tied to it that are in line today. We're talking about how you were taught to hate black people and not necessarily black genocide. So we'll focus on these terms. That gets kind of small. So for those of you that are still like, what the hell is eugenics, right? He made that up. Like that's a weird word, eugenics. Right? They made a monument to it in Indiana because they were the first to interact and make it legal. So in Indiana, by late 1800s, Indiana authorities believed criminality, mental problems, and pauperism, being poor, and were hereditary. Because your daddy was poor, you're going to be poor, so we might as well just like end it now. Like don't start. You know what I'm saying? Various laws were enacted based on this belief. 1907, Governor Frank Hanley approved first state eugenics law, making sterilization mandatory. Mandatory. You cannot reproduce for certain individuals in state custody. Sterilizations halted in 1909 by Governor Thomas R. Marshall. Indiana Supreme Court ruled in 1907 law unconstitutional. 1921, citing the denial of due process under the 14th Amendment. 1927, an appeals. Approximately 2,500 total in-state custody were sterilized. Governor Otis R. Bowen approved the repeal. Like they were wrong, they got right, and then they got back wrong again, right? The repeal of all sterilization laws in 1974. By 1977, related restrictive marriage laws were also repealed. So basically, they were wrong, got back right, got back wrong again until the 70s. Raise your hand if you were born before 1977. You could have been sterilized if you was the right color. There are people your age walking around that have been sterilized by your U.S. tax dollar. Had the right to reproduce taken away from them because they were poor, they were black, and nobody had a voice. Now, if you look at this, right, this entire piece targeted blacks because the creation of a super race was the intention. Officially, around 60,000 sterilizations took place, but I don't know how they come up with official numbers, when most states didn't officially report, right? So if you don't report, how are we going to have official numbers? There was actually a judge who recently came out and said that unofficially around 200,000 sterilizations took place. Now, let's talk about under what circumstances are these sterilizations taking place. This is not something that, you're on the death row, right? Like we're getting ready to take your life and we'll take your ability to reproduce away too. No, this is somebody who comes in and is getting ready to have a child. How many women have given birth? So, man, when you gave birth, like how many things were you thinking about, like right as this baby's getting ready to come?
Get the heck out of me.
Get the heck out of me. So if I asked you, like, what's 4 plus 4?
8.
8. But I'm saying while you was getting ready to have a baby, would the answer be all the way right? Maybe. Like, you weren't thinking about that, right? So while young black girls are in labor, at times they were forced to sign away their right to have a healthily delivered baby in order to be sterilized as a consequence. So somebody comes in, you're getting ready to have a baby, right? And they say, hey, we're only going to treat you if you agree to be sterilized. Now, once again, this is early 1900s. Most are not literate. They don't know what they're signing. And in some circumstances, they even threaten to take away welfare or any other government subsidies, saying, hey, you know what? If you come in here and you don't get sterilized, we're taking away your food, your housing. You have to sterilize your children, too. These hit communities of people that are still around today. So when we talk about what was racism back then, what does America look like today, this is a part of the face of who we are that people don't want to talk about. And please Google it. I understand, like, a lot of this stuff is tough. Go home, do your homework. It's real. It'll be like the first 2, you know. Language game. See, after all that real heavy stuff, right, it's kind of easy to, like step back. Everybody stand up, shake it out, breathe a little bit. Stand up, stand up, stand up. This man just told me that eugenics is a word. He just told me that Namibia was the first genocide. And then we taught the Nazis. What the hell? Shake it out. You know, we play a little game. Y'all not going to like the game. All right. So, I need somebody else to come up on stage. 10 minutes to what? All right. So, long story short, with this language game, what we want to talk about is real quick, raise your hand if you feel like you could come up with 10 positive words that are associated with black things. Black things. In the language that we use. You already, come on, man. Or I'll come to you, my fault. Actually, you know, in the interest of time, I ain't gonna put you on the spot. This is what we'll do. In terms of communication, you guys can sit back down. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Like Catholic Mass, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. So communication. When it turns to communication, there are 3 things we need to focus on. Number 1, you have a communicator. Right? That's me. I say what I say, and I may say it with an accent. I may say it with an ugly expression on my face. You have to read that, right? You got to understand, hey, you know what? He might have said, I love you, right? Now, he said it with an ugly face, right? That's just the communicator. The communication, I love you, right? Sounds a lot better. This is the closest thing that we have to objectivity when it comes to communication. What is actually said. And then you have the listener. Right? You're going to hear I love you, and if your mother or father beats you every time they said I loved you, somebody says I love you, you're going to flinch, right? Because of how you were raised, the way that you've been conditioned to receive whatever that communication is. So today, we want to talk about what subtle reminders about race do we see in our communication. Now, I know this is pretty tough to see. It's a little. So what it says is, how serious do you think prejudice against minority groups is in the U.S. today? White people, according to CNN, believe around 40% think it's an issue, right? The larger number, that's hard to see. 59% think it's somewhat serious or less. And then the yellow part is they don't know. Non-whites, 66% believe it's an issue, while only 32% think it's kind of serious. Around the same think it doesn't know. Do you think the criminal justice system treats whites and blacks equally? White people believe that it favors whites at 42%. About equally, 49%. And favors blacks. I don't know where they got this. 6%. Can we find 6% of people that want to trade? Stand up, please feel free. I'll give you her $100. So blacks, 76, damn near 80% believe it favors whites. 20% think it's about even because they don't want to be too political. And then the rest, it depends. So when we talk, right, what do we actually see? So these are words that are kind of commonly used. These are what we call idioms or American colloquialisms that actually don't mean anything other than what we say that they do. So what are words associated with white? You can have a white lie, right? What is a white lie? A lie that's not that bad, right? It's cool. Like, I lie, but it's a white lie, so it's all white, right? White collar, right? I got a good job. I got me a white job, right? White glove, that means it's really fancy, it's clean, it's nice, right? White noise, you can go to sleep to white noise. It's not noise at all, it's like a sound, you know, it's not that bad, right? White paper, authoritative, right? I produced a white paper. Like, no, I wrote a white paper, it's official now. See, everybody didn't go to school looking like, well, what's the difference between a brown paper? It's cool, man, we'll talk about it after, right? Whitewash. Whitewash means to make innocent or to make okay. If I whitewash it, it's all right again. See? All I got to do is whitewash it. Lily white, innocent, white as the driven snow, untouched, pure. Black magic. Whoa. Stay away. They're doing some dark stuff over there. The black market. Illegal. Stay off the black market. Black mark. No! It's no longer white as the driven snow. It's got a black mark. It's bad. Blackball, meaning you've been blackballed. You have a mark on you. You are somewhat outcasted. Blackmail. Once again, we are tied back to this illegal activity. Damn. Can we get a good black one, please, for 200? A black day. Shit. A black day is just a dark day. Kind of like the clouds is out, but they black. Black sheep. Outcast. And black comedy. About death. God. My mama wasn't in here, I would have been cussing. And how do we really feel, right? Black lives, we say our lives matter. Black lives matter, right? And then white people be getting mad and they're like, Black lives matter? What do you mean Black lives matter? White supremacy. We're just saying, hey, we're here, right? Whites dominate. These are the subconscious trainings that we give ourselves every time we speak. We say, hey, we're here. No, you're not. Police are here too. Blue lives matter, all these other things. We didn't say anything else. We just said, we're here. Black lives matter. Matter. If there's a dispute, I'll say it publicly since we're on camera. If you are mad at the slogan, Black lives matter, shouldn't everybody matter? And I mean, like, this is not an all lives matter statement, but when we see the difference between the groups that they try to compare, thank you. I was confused. So when we see Black Lives Matter, right, and we compare that to white supremacy, what are the two implications around what it is that we're doing? We're saying, hey, we're here, while whites have this systemic means of going about daily life in which supremacy, domination, first, front, top, north, top, best, affluence, right? Because we have all sorts of codes, right? Everybody knows they speak at least 2 languages. And this is not just Ebonics, right? You have to speak newspaper in America. Now, when I say inner city, right, you can kind of know who it is that I'm talking about. If I say urban development, or if I say development, that means probably suburban is coming. But hey, we'll leave that there. I appreciate the people that's tracking with me. Thug, right? If you're a thug, right, what is the opposite of a thug, which is associated with whites, right? You have well-mannered. unprofessional, right? I work at Deloitte, the world's the largest consulting firm. I braided my hair. Now I'm ghetto. I'm unprofessional. It's not okay, right? This is my hair, right? It's clean. It's laid down. It looks really kind of like yours, right? Actually, yours is longer if we actually want to talk about it. But hey, like, I'm ghetto. I'm a thug. I'm unprofessional and low income, affluent, right? These are words that we subconsciously associate, even though they don't have to say it. We just know what they mean. So what do we really see? Where do these things come from? We talk about who it is that we are, how it is that we got here, right? We're saying, okay, a lot of that stuff was a long time ago, but I don't do this today, right? I come to step up. When I'm at step up, I get all the training I need to go back out into the world to make sure that I am good, right? However, what do we see, right? If you eat something every day, what do? They say you are what you eat, right? We're going to do that one more time. You are what you eat, right? You think what you read, right? And you do what you see. I just made that up. That's copyrighted. Here we go. I'm serious. Ivan Gaskin quoted. Here we go. 59% of the poor portrayed in the media, or 99.99999%. See, now y'all caught that line, right? 59% of the poor portrayed in the media, while only accounting for 27% of Americans in poverty. Hold on, wait. You mean there's only 27% of the poor people that are black? Newsflash, depending on who you listen to, we only like 13, 14% of the population. So we can't be all the broke folks, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't be everybody. There just aren't enough of us. Maybe if there were more, mathematically it'd be possible and we'd hold it down. No, I'm playing. We would not. Here we go. 37% of criminals portrayed on the news, but only make up 26% of those arrested for criminal charges. 37 is more than 20. Hold on. Let's go over here. Whites make up 17% of the poor portrayed in the media, but make up 60. What? You mean 66% of the poor people in America are white? Nah. Fact check this, brother. Come on, man. Somebody. I hit the thing. Here we go. 17%, like, that's like a B. You know what I'm saying? You get an 83 with 17%. You can pass. You good. 28% of criminals portrayed, but make up 77% of crimes. There is no way. Every time I turn on the news, it is another black dude that look like this cat with braids, right? He got a hoodie on. It's something. It's always something. You mean to tell me that only? No. There's no way. It's not possible because we don't see it, right? Then we say these things, it's just the news. I don't even watch the news like that. I got Netflix, right? I don't engage in those things. CNN is a leftist, Fox is to the right. I'm in the middle. I'm solid, right? I read stuff. I'm good. I'm cool, right? However, where does this come out? It comes out in our language, right? We say, you are what you eat. You think what you read, and you do what you see. There we go. I appreciate that front row. Paying attention. Ugh, look at that. So here we go. This is the difference. Because when we speak, right, we do what we see or something, right? Alabama. This is somebody who has killed another person. Suspect brilliant. Has anybody ever called me brilliant? Dad, you ain't ever called me brilliant. Not once. It has never happened. That is a true story. Suspect, brilliant, but social misfit. Eventually pled guilty to the killing of 3 colleagues and wounding 3 others in a faculty meeting in 2010. What? You mean he killed people? You talking about he brilliant? Oh, no. This can't happen all the time. Son in Staten Island murders was brilliant. What? There's a lot of brilliant people. What's going on, man? Athletic. I thought I was athletic. I don't know if my dad ever called me athletic either. Here we go. But the demons were his death of his parents. Like, did he kill his parents or did his demons do it? It's kind of ambiguous, you know? Right? Oregon school shooting suspect fascinated with guns, but but was a devout Mormon, his friends say. Wait. You talking about how he went to church and like his hobbies and stuff? Hold on. So if that's how they describe the killers, then the victims, right? Black victims must be described so much better. Radiantly brilliant, right? Luminous, all of these different things. That's how they have to describe them, right? Wait. Montgomery's latest homicide victim had a history of narcotics abuse. Headline about shooting death of 25-year-old black man in 2014. Wait, hold on. So you mean to tell me he gets killed and you like, well, it's cool because he got high. Trayvon Martin was suspended 3 times from school. Trayvon Martin is a teenager who was killed for walking home, and you want to talk to me about him being suspended? That's the headline? That's what we're talking about right now? Police, slain Lakeland teen has been shot before. Death possibly drug-related. They shot him before. They didn't get him the first time. They just came back to clean it up. And, you know, he might have been in drugs too. So it's cool. He wasn't brilliant, right? We say that's okay. And then we say, hold on. There's no way that they would actually do this with terrorists, right? We like this word terrorist. We throw it around on brown people a lot, right? Even if it's white people to do it. There are a couple examples of that. We can get into it. But, hey, we'll keep it high level. Theater shooting suspect was, God, how many brilliant people are there in the world? Was brilliant science student, right? This is an individual who was the shooting suspect, theater shooting suspect. Police, Michael Brown struggled with officer before he was killed. Now, if we just take a second, let's take a look at the difference between these two pictures, right? My man has a suit on. He got a smile, right? That is his good side. Look at him. Michael Brown, I am sure that at some point in his life, he had a good side, right? He got dressed for church at least once and took a picture. But you scroll and you scroll and you scroll and you find the picture that allows him to potentially be gang-related, right? Because he's wearing red. He's a black dude with a wife beater on, and he got his fingers up. That does look like a peace sign, but you know, it might be gang shit. That only happened there. Headline, after Dylan Roof executed 9 black people in a church, right? Ex-classmate Dylan Roof had black friends. This is somebody who went into a church and assassinated people that were praying based on the way that they looked and the way that CNN, right? This is supposed to be on the left team. Ex-classmate Dylan Roof had black friends. See, I have a black friend. He even let me touch his hair last weekend. I'm cool. Right? Then you have a victim, right? Laquan McDonald, abused and in and out of foster homes, had a turbulent life, and that is why it's okay that he was killed. Charleston shooter, Dylan Roof, once again, they found the cutest picture this month ever took. Was a loner that caught the internet evil. Was a loner caught in internet evil, family says. Then we have over here, son of trouble past, shields mom from gunfire, dies saving her in South Chicago. When we talk about affluenza, we don't even have to get started here, right? Just because you are of a certain class, right, you have the opportunity and the ability to buy your way out of the justice system. This is how it goes because welcome to America, right? Oh, and you got to be white. My fault. I missed that. If you get some money and you're black, this does not apply to you. So you look at Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice. These are just major cases. And this was all in the span of like a year and a half. These were major cases in the span of a year and a half and the way that they're portrayed, right? What are we teaching ourselves? What are we feeding ourselves in terms of hatred, in terms of understanding the way that we look at the world? There's no way that you can look at these images every day and say that you're impartial, right? Because not only does this have an effect on white people, this has an effect on black people too. To be terrified to go outdoors or to have any sort of interaction with the police. You get pulled over, you put your hands up, right? They ain't even got out the car yet. These are real-life realities, whether you're in Starbucks, whether you're on the highway, wherever you are going. And the best part is, if they do kill you, if you caught the right one, he will not go to jail. Guaranteed. Of these 5, I think One of them went to trial. Now, why does this happen? This looks a lot better on my computer. But the reason this happens is because of look at where we live, right? You look at major U.S. cities. We have Kansas, Baltimore, Chicago, St. Louis, the United States, and then that is New York. Now, if you see these little blue dots, right, this is not Christmas colors. These are groups of people. The green, black people. The red, white people. Tying back to the exercise we did earlier today, we don't know each other. We see these news stories. We see this brilliance, right? Or we see this thug. And since we have nothing else to contextualize this experience, we have to hate. Because value is then tied to the situation. We want the same jobs. We want to go to the same schools. We want to live in the same areas. We want the same things for our family. So when I hear about affirmative action, I'm not hearing that, right? You're a thug, right? You're from over there. I don't know you. So what do you mean your son gets to go to school because mine didn't? I don't know anything about Namibia, right? I don't know anything about eugenics. I don't know anything about history. I don't know that black people have technically only been free for 54 years. I don't know that black people have been sterilized and they're my same age. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that my son needs to go to school. I know that I'm sending my kids to private school, and I'm tired of hearing about this slavery. This was 150 years ago. I'm tired of hearing about it. We don't live together in Kansas City, Chicago, St. Louis, Baltimore, the U.S., in case you didn't know. So the white people are blue, all right? It's a lot of y'all. So if you come over here, blacks are greens, and in here I think blacks are the red. None of these situations do we live together. Oh, this is Seattle. Damn, it got close to home. So, anybody familiar with the practice of redlining in great old Seattle? Oh, come on, that's 20% of the population, man. You thought everybody just wanted to live together in the city? Come on, man. There's not even a view over there. It's nice, it's close. But there's a couple black people that like water. Right? We can swim. So redlining, practice that persisted in Seattle until the late 60s, depending on when you want to count it. I-23rd and Jackson still let you know what's going on today. Shout out, okay. People got a little excited. So, we talk about what is redlining. Redlining was denoted as hazardous. So when we talk about how is it that our U.S. cities are still so segregated, right? Well, people like to live around each other, right? People just want to do that. That's just the way things are. It happened naturally. It's an organic way. If all the black kids sit at the lunch table, all the black kids are going to buy houses around each other. Now, facts. So, how did we get here? How many people are familiar with the FHA, right? Federal Housing Association. They gave me a couple loans. It's like, I'm playing. So when we talk about the Federal Housing Association, right, this is something that's looked at as a good thing today. 3.5% down on my first house, right? However, most people are not aware that the original intent of projects were to house people who may have been down on their luck getting back from the war. So World War II happens, a lot of stuff goes on. Basically, you have more people, have more kids, and you have housing projects that are built. Now, these housing projects are built in both black and white areas. However, a point in time came in which all white projects were kept white. All black projects were kept black. And what does that look like? That means that you have a waiting list at the black project because they have to remain segregated. And then you have white projects that have vacancies, right? We're not going to mix the two. We're not going to allow them to live together. They have to continue to tell these stories about the other group. As soon as they live together, you can be like, well, he might be a thug, because black people do commit crimes. So do whites, right? So does everybody. People commit crimes. People do crazy things, but you know that if that is your uncle, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your friend, might have been a bad day. It was an ugly situation. It was a tough time. We have the context to rectify this act with a person. We don't define the person entirely by the act because we know that you can't define a person by one simple moment. Right? It's this story, it's this beautiful tapestry that takes years and years and years to tell. But when we focus on the one moment, we tap a label on it, and then we apply that label to everybody that looks like them, right? That's how you get alligator babies. That's how you get genocide. That's how you get Charlottesville. That's how you get all of these different things because it's connected. It's all connected. Nothing escapes the all. Nothing escapes that which is. So, to make this a little bit more basic, right? As is said in this map, right? You can't see it, but it says whites only keep out, whites only keep out, whites only keep out, whites only keep out, no Jews allowed, whites only keep out, whites only keep out, whites only keep out, whites only keep out. The ghetto, right? Negro population, Seattle, 1960, right? This is something that happened here in your lifetime. This is real now, right? We went from Namibia, now you're here. It's cool. It's cool. Don't worry about it, right? Because we're getting better today. We said we was going to be honest with our past, our present, honest about the future. So, when we think about and see these images, right? Hopefully this conversation that we've had today is able to provide a little ounce of context as to why you see riots in Baltimore, riots in Ferguson. When you talk about people who over time have been historically disenfranchised, and that's just a big word for the system is not done right. When you amplify that by time, insecurity, unstable financial conditions, right? We're talking about all these different things because they want to take this picture and say these blacks are crazy. They burn police cars. They have no respect for authority, law. They burn up their own communities. Why would you do that? How do you take a bad verdict? It's a bad apple, and use that as an excuse to burn up an entire city? It's not how you handle that, right? Maybe it's not. But we do not have a whole lot of options being presented on the table as of right now. And what we want to talk about is how do we make sure that these images, right, that time is captured, are not the zeitgeist of today. The zeitgeist is the overarching spirit of the times, right? Time magazine has felt it necessary on multiple occasions to let people know that this didn't happen once, right? These are all in the last 5 years. I'm not digging back to 60 anything. I did not have to get one black and white photo to do this entire presentation about what's going on in America today. Not one. 2015, right? Same year. All this stuff is now, right? Talk about Charlottesville. That was like 6 months ago, right? 6 months ago, people gathered outside of a Confederate statue to protect it. Now, born in the South, my mother, my beautiful mother, is from the South, right? I can understand Southern heritage, right? That's fried chicken. That's right? Sweet tea, right? That may be a sweet potato pie, right? But Robert E. Lee, that's gray at best. That's gray at best. So when we talk about what images are we protecting and what are we allowing to be the story that's told about America and our people, who we are, because as much as this presentation may have not revealed, white people, I need you. The same way that you need me. We need us to get right. This is a fundamental truth. You can't escape it. I can't get right if you don't get right, because while we're having this entire conversation about why you hate black people, right, we're not talking about why you don't care what's going on in Syria or why you don't understand what slavery is still going on in Libya or any other place around the world. These injustices that keep us confined to our present state in life cannot be escaped by any one single actor, any one single person. Whether it's where we shop, right? Everybody familiar with H&M? Please. This hit Black Instagram very, very hard. We've been mad about this for a long time. If you know about it, please raise your hand. If not, I'm going to take the opportunity. Oh, okay. So H&M, right? Your favorite brand has had to close. I know it's 17 stores. I want to say it's more than that. But I don't want to lie on stage. They had to close everything they had in South Africa after they ran this ad. What it is? A very handsome young black boy, right? What did? They put a shirt on him that says, "Coolest monkey in the jungle." The director of marketing was like, "That's it. Yeah, here we go. You're going to love it. Cool. Cut the check." That's H&M. Starbucks, beloved Starbucks, that's here. That's home, man. Caramel macchiato. What you mean everybody can't enjoy a caramel macchiato? That's terrible. It's so good, you know? And then the NFL, everybody has a different perspective. The president has felt the need to express his opinion in all the vulgarity and beautiful language that is available to the American public, right? However, these are still pointing at the same thing, right? This gets back to what was eugenics founded upon, this some said separation. Somehow we are different, right? Because, did everybody see this commercial? Dove pulled it pretty quick. Dove pulled it. I could not let them slide on this one. So, if you are black, right, you need Dove soap to get you clean. We can make you white. It's funny, only because it's uncomfortable, but the fact that if I take my shirt off after washing with Dove, I'm a white dude on stage now? Like, that was, once again, a room full of people got together and we're like, yo, we got it. We got it. This is it. We'll make her a redhead so she doesn't look too traditional. Where does all this come from, right? How many are familiar with white Twitter and black Twitter? All right. So for those that are not familiar, if you scroll down your timeline, 4 good swipes. I mean, like bottom of screen to top, just. And all the people look the same, you are a member of your racist Twitter or Instagram. Right? We think that we live in these segregated societies, or we work in these segregated societies, or we go to school in these segregated schools, but no. Right? The one thing that was supposed to unite us and bring us all together, right? Why can't we be friends? Not on Instagram. Right? Look, when white Twitter, when black Twitter sounds like white Twitter, that means like Jesus is coming back. Like we agree that this was something that needed to be talked about. Because the majority of the time, the things that we talk about are not the same. We're talking about the coolest monkey in the jungle for 3 weeks while y'all are talking about whatever y'all were talking about. Honestly, you scroll down my timeline, it looks the same way. This is not a condemnatory speech. This is about how do we make sure that we identify the places in which we are segregated so that we can understand where it is we need to come together. See? Because when we talk about coming together, right, this is getting back to the source. This is getting back to, I don't know what you believe in, but somehow we're here. I agree that you're real, you agree that I'm real, and there's like something that like makes us go. Right? We don't have to call it God. We don't have to call it whatever. We can call it the stuff that make us go. Right? We are connected by the stuff that makes us go. And this stuff that makes us go got a couple of rules. They say, hey, man, put y'all on this rock. There is no up. Right? They just kind of left that part out. But while on this rock, right, you got to get to know each other. Right? These are Google searches. We live in these silos, right? And it's not as though we don't actually have these questions. It'd be different if we didn't care, right? It'd be like, they over there, we ain't gonna mess with them. We don't have curiosity. We're not worried about it, right? But why do black people stink? Why do black men like white women? Why do black guys like white girls? Why do black people have white hands? Why do black people have white palms? Why do black men cheat? Why do black women have big bums? Anybody ever said bum? I'm glad. Why do black people like watermelon? Actually, Google, I'm kind of calling Google out on this one because the question was, what do black people eat? And the official answer, right? Not like a thought they might. No, watermelon. Right? I don't even like watermelon like that. I know. Honestly, it's terrible. It makes my teeth cold, man. I don't. That's not my thing. That's not my thing. I do like chicken. I didn't know that was on there. My fault. The best N-word jokes. But whole point, right? We have these questions about other races. We have this question about who are we at the end of the day? We have this question about, because what we innately understand is that there's something about your humanity that can teach me something about mine, right? It doesn't sound like that majority of the time, right? But we have these suppositions. We say, they do that because I saw it one time, right? Or they're like that because I have evidence and facts and statistics to tell you that this is true. However, at the end of the day, at the beginning and all throughout, we know that context, that holistic understanding must become the focus of how we move forward into the future. If you understand that the reason that you were taught to hate black people is because you were never interacted or ever had the opportunity to know black people, you understand my statement. I say you hate black people because you don't know black people. You take these snippets, right? These snippets of thug and terrible and shooting and gang and da-da-da-da-da. I'm clutching my purse too. Real life. Because the picture and image that I have in my head, I'm not a bad person. I'm protecting my money. That is a criminal. They've been let out of a zoo. That is half a step above a chimpanzee. Their skulls are different. Like really. They have a longer hip bone. Right? That's why they run faster. Real life. These are not jokes. This is not meant to be funny. I get it. It makes it easier. That's why I raised the tone of my voice. I was talking to people. They said, hey, man, if you don't talk about that, you got to use your high voice. Make sure you stay professional. Right? Don't let them know what your real voice sounds like. Now everybody thinking like, does he really sound like that? You'll never know. How do we get back to tying this all together? If we say that we don't know black people, and that's why we hate black people, right? This is not just tied to black people. I'm black, so that's why I'm talking about it, right? But whoever it is that we don't know, right, we have to understand that that is soil. When anything that is a seed has an opportunity to grow, is allowed to take root, it's going to do what it was built to do. Thoughts are seeds. These thoughts that are implanted in what it is that we do literally have one objective to do in their entire life. Let's grow. So the seed of a thug is planted, right? And that seed will continue to grow and grow and grow. And it'll be slow, right? Because you want to say, no, I'm going to step up. And then by October, it's kind of like a weed now, right? You can pull it out next April or March. April. It's April. You can pull it out next April, right? Or next time you have a conversation with a black friend, but that seed is planted there. How do you keep a seed from going? It's not about what you do to keep it from growing. It's about what do you plant to take its place, right? There is not a seed in the world that you can plant on top of a great oak or a sequoia tree. Right? You can't throw it at the bark and think that it's going to grow. No, because it's solid. It knows what it is. It has no place to go, no place to grow, so it has to do what it is meant to do and die. And that means fundamentally we have to understand who are we as people? Who are we as things that are connected to this all that makes us go, right? You call it what you want to, but how do we connect back to that? And that's through interacting with who we are, who it is that our past is, who it is that our present lets us know that we are, and how do we create our future together. And the way that we make sure that we do this is by living with each other, interacting with each other, giving ourselves context. We can't let things like Syria happen if you go to Syria, right? As long as you're not around it, you don't have to actually engage with it. As long as you never go to the ghetto, right? And just for the record, I hate to say it, right? But Seattle ghetto is not like ghetto, right? Like you're not really from the hood. Like I'm not taking it away. I'm saying, but today's Seattle hood, I'm just saying that the level of poverty that you see in a lot of major cities, Atlanta, Detroit, New York, Chicago, right? It gets deep. And when you talk about what's going on here, it's a beautiful thing because you do have people of all these different races that came together and 650 people who thought it was a good idea to take a day off of work. I don't know what kind of jobs y'all got, right? To just come and talk about race. This is non-existent. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, where the KKK marches outside of the Capitol, and I continue driving to work. That's like they do that sometimes. You know, they at it again. Like, they really do it in the summertime when it's hot, like, you know, because the white keep them cool, you know. It's cool. It's like that's what they do. But to have a space where you can come and talk about these things, don't take it for granted. But at the same time, when you don't necessarily see the overt racism, don't think that you're out of the woods. When you don't see that individual who's being arrested in Starbucks, when you don't see the person or the cop, because once again, I do appreciate the police officers that are here today. I want to say thank you to you. We can clap that up. Yeah. Because having this conversation and showing that effort lets us know that at the end of the day, the greatest of these is love. When we talk about love, that's how we get there. Through laughter, through music, through sharing the stories, through understanding who it is that we are. And when I look at you, right, I see a little bit of you and me. Or I see somebody that I know that looks like you and be like, that look like my babysitter. Or that looks like my homegirl's dad, right? Those are the things that ultimately are going to unite us. And until we find those opportunities, those spaces to come together and talk about who we are as people, who we are as individuals, we can never have that foundation of which we can build our future. With that, my name is Ivan Gaskin, and as always, the word of the day is love. So real quick. How we doing on time? All right, here we go. So you are not done. Actually, we can take like 3 questions if you got questions, but we're getting ready to get into exercise. We'll do 3 questions. If y'all got questions, I don't know if that was like a question kind of thing, you know. You got a question? All right.
How do we start to create the integration? I have a medical criteria, and I've been here for 20 years. I know exactly what they're doing. Obviously, there's white, and there's a belief system that is passed down for generations. I was watching Cliff Johnson recently, the CEO of Starbucks, who was crying on CNN about the situation that happened. That was real for him. But then someone else came on and said, he's not woke. And really, think about kind of rough white neighborhoods, not bumping shoulders, not in her. How do we do that? I don't have the answer, but it needs to be done.
No, once again, I do not propose that I have the answer. But one thing that I do know that we need to do is it begins with education. So like right now I live in Southwest Atlanta. Southwest Atlanta, if you're not familiar, the Atlanta University Center is a conglomerate of 5 historically black colleges. So that is Morris Brown University, Morehouse College, Spelman College, ITC, Clark Atlanta University. And when you talk about the history that is associated with Atlanta in terms of the civil rights movement, in terms of the Dr. King's neighborhood, Auburn Ave, these are historical figures that are like the equivalent. I don't even want to make an equivalent. They stand alone as a very important place in the black community. Atlanta has been a historically black city for like the last 30, 40 years. Really longer than that. But when you talk about what Atlanta means to the black community in terms of music, culture, having what is to a certain extent a mecca, right? And then you do have gentrification coming in and hitting areas very hard. It hits Seattle already. But Atlanta is a little bit different because it was a majority black city. And when you see these people who are undereducated or don't own their home, there's nothing stopping somebody who is a good person trying to buy a home for their family for a cheaper price, the city that they just moved to. There's no one to blame other than, to a certain extent, history, right? That doesn't get us closer to a solution. When we say that, hey, this person started out with more money so they can buy stuff, right? The only way to do that is by, number one, being aware of where we are. If we start off with a level of awareness, that's going to influence our decision making. That's going to influence how we view the world, because we understand that we're coming from someplace and we do want to go to someplace. Maybe we make a wrong turn, but we at least have a destination. So I would say that things that we can do in our daily lives, number one, make sure that you're educated on as much as possible. Now, yes, it's very hard, but have tough conversations. Engage with yourself on a level that you're uncomfortable with. What we're going to do after this, we're going to get to it after 2 more questions, but this is going to be a perfect opportunity for you to engage with your future by number one, making sure that you change yourself. So, you were next.
Maybe this is too specific, and it's a question to you or the audience, but one of the things that I'm kind of struggling with is corporate images and just pictures and publications and stuff. I find that they lack diversity on all levels and really perpetuate some of these stereotypes and thoughts and mindsets. But I'm struggling to find what a best practice might be to be able to really push those I work with to advocate for having more diverse
We can go to the audience in a minute. In terms of best practice, once again, I'm not claiming to be an authority, to have all the answers. One thing I will say is an individual who's in corporate, who has those same experiences, and it's like, hey man, like, I am that black dude. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to understanding the images that are portrayed, I think that right now we live in a very, very, very unique time. Right now, through the advent of social media, cell phone cameras, we have the opportunity to see these injustices, right? 15 years ago, somebody was arrested in Starbucks, right? We just didn't know about it. There's no record. And now when you have Starbucks, H&M, people literally closing down businesses, the necessity and the immediate nature of what the need is now at least being heard. So I would say the first thing is, don't get weird. When you're on the side of right, you gotta keep fighting. How do you keep fighting? Continue to educate yourself, continuing to show love every day. Just spread love however you can. Because once again, it's through an interaction. Maybe it's a smile on the bus. Maybe it's giving somebody $1. Maybe it's a story that you share. Right? Being open enough with yourself to love people that you don't know. I know that sounds very vague. It's like, how are we gonna get the metrics on how stuff is changing with people? It don't work like that. There is no measure of consciousness. There's no measure of how are we actually interacting. So you keep doing what you're doing, and to a certain extent, things do change, but it has to come from individual people. Then the laws change. Then the businesses change, right? Because when we take our money, when we take our thoughts, our actions, our mind, who it is we are, we direct it in a different place, right? The rest of the world has to come up and catch up. So, anybody else got a better answer for that? What's going on?
I would say, you said it's supposed to reflect the people that you serve, so I would say work on diversifying the people that you serve and holding events in which you gain consent to have that photo. Not saying to do it in a fake way, but to really honestly diversify your business so that you can capture that imagery.
I like that, because if we're being all the way honest, right, this is a majority crowd talking about our issues. It's like, why does the crowd look the way that it looks? I mean, it's a great thing to have people here, but how do we continue to create more diverse situations and spaces? Great question. There was one more over here, and we're going to get to the last exercise and then we go.
How early should we be having those conversations? Because I have a 4-year-old son, and he has multicultural friends, and I don't know if he sees color, he's never mentioned it, so I don't know whether I should, protect that innocent, or what happened was the library had a list of essential kindergarten books, right, or prior kindergarten essential, and one of them was about segregation, and it had, class and color school and all these terms. And I didn't want to go to school saying that word, right? But I also don't want to call it out like that you should be seeing people in a certain way, but I also want to reject racial equity. So I'm not sure what to do. It makes me upset because I don't know.
So, once again, ever had kids?
Right? But one thing that I do know is that when you focus on love, right, it's about what do you plan. I appreciate your honesty in the question. Like, how early is it to let somebody know that they live in America, that they live in our world today? What I would say to you very directly is that it's not about what you tell your kids not to do. It's about how do you focus on what they ultimately believe about life. Because all these details, they'll fill in, right? But what you ultimately believe about life is going to be the thing that pervades all of your actions, right? If you stress, right, you can introduce them to all the facts. You can introduce them to all these things, right? Because what's going to happen is, like, I can speak from my experience and the experiences that I've seen. In terms of black kids' life, there's going to be a point at which your innocence is shattered, like just destroyed, right? Just like, holy, right, I can't believe that this is real. And then you go to school mad, you go to work mad, right, stuff other happens, and you figure out, you find some way to rectify those two. And to a certain extent, it's just as dangerous to live in all black neighborhoods because you never have any sort of humanity with white people, or you never have any sort of other interaction to counteract what it is that you know to be true. So in the face of a racist history, a history that is based upon hate, only thing that I can say is teach them love. All right, here we go.
Exposure is the best way to teach them the humanity of another person. And it's not just, flying to Africa and staying in a village, but, going to a different restaurant or bringing different books or listening to different type of music. Exposure in that way where it's something that's interactive, loving, and just shows the humanity is the best way to really begin that seed and plant it, because it creates that relational aspect instead of the division. Because as it was mentioned before, when you are a person of color, you learn it quite early, and they're already seeing a media bias. They're already hearing different things. Yeah.
Thank you.
That my friends who are white, who are raising children, have the conversation now, and one of the children is the age of yours, because like it or not, they are being racialized. And who better to keep it from becoming hate-based versus love-based than you? Yeah. And I don't think he's 4, so you're talking 4-year-old terms. It doesn't have to be deep, but he's curious. So I think you should do it, and not be afraid that I'm going to bring it to his attention if we address things.
So I think one of the things that kind of hasn't been mentioned that I guess everyone should also be aware of is that in this culture now, there's a lot of biracial, triracial, there's a lot of multicultural people out there, and I'm one of them. I'm half black, I'm a quarter Irish, I'm a quarter Japanese, and I spent my entire life having to figure out whether I'm black, or I'm Asian, or I'm white. And one of the issues that I know that has always come up is, how do I identify myself? Do I identify myself as black because I'm half black, or do I identify myself as biracial? And my son, he's a mixture of all sorts of things, and trying to explain to my stepson, who is completely white, that calling someone brown is probably not the most sensitive way to talk to people, but he's white, blue-eyed, blonde hair, completely white. So being with me, he's able to be exposed to different things. I can explain things, but biracially, I think that's something that needs to be brought up, because being black and understanding my history, it's difficult when my white side is saying, hey, we didn't really do all that stuff. Well, that's not what my black side is saying. So I guess also being aware of that multicultural side, and even like my dad's from DC, very black neighborhood. My cousins don't have a lot of white friends. If they do, I think probably one of the only. But trying to explain to them too, like white people aren't bad. They're not out there to get you. But trying to change that culture too is very difficult, and telling them that, yeah, be proud of who you are, but understand that other cultures are not here specifically out to get you. So I think that's another struggle that there's going to be.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a comment on the teaching our kids, and I think the way my father did it was just through modeling. It's what my dad did. That's how I learned how to treat other people, and I grew up in a community where there were very few people of color, and yet he still managed to do that in a variety of ways. And I can't even think of an example off the top of my head right now, but he really did. He did everything he could to make sure that I was nice, that I did spread love. He wasn't perfect, but he did a damn good job. So I think as a parent, that's the best thing, is just to model the behavior as much as possible and look for those learning opportunities whenever they come up. So.
Thank you.
I've got a 5-year-old at home, and I live in a very white neighborhood of the burbs, east of Everett. And I just had a couple thoughts. I don't have any answers, but I can confirm they do see color. My brother-in-law is full Samoan, and when we play Guess Who, it's does your person have glasses, and does your person have Tata's skin? Because his uncle is Tata to him. So they do see color. They don't know that they need to do anything with that observation. But I was just struck by the thought of, like, I love working with kids and teens specifically because the best time to chart a ship's course is early on. And so I don't know if there's too early a time to start having these type of conversations with kids. I've been struggling with it, like with sexual topics and things, and you would need someone really steeped in adolescent psychology and stuff like that to give you a clear answer. But I was just realizing a connection of, when I think of that question, how early is too early, it's based in fear, which so is our description of hate. The definition for hate is based in fear of things. And if you come face to face, if I have a meal, I think I was trying to rack my brain about what type of question to ask, and it was basically going to be about, like, how do we get people at a table for a meal? Because that's going to break down most of those fears. But when you actually, like, come face to face with those fears and realize there's nothing to be afraid of there, I don't know if there's anything to be afraid of with talking about race and things with your kids early. If anything, their questions are going to rock your world about why this matters, what the differences are, is it better to be this or that? And if anything, you're going to be challenged and grow based on their innocent, beautiful questions. So I don't have an answer for what's too early, but I'm just seeing a connection that the fear about bringing it up too early seems very similar to the fear of what I hate, which usually is there's nothing there to hate. So
that's deep.
So just a quick comment. Personally, for me, having that integration of information early, and like this gentleman said, and some other folks were very young, that was important to me because I was raised to understand that there was no such thing as that I can't. So that gateway, that bridge, that ladder was always there. And so you're looking at a woman of color, raised in an area that was predominantly, however, the family said, you will go here, you will have that access. So creating access and opportunities is that gateway, and not necessarily being uncomfortable that you're the only. That's your opportunity to build that bridge, that ladder, that gateway, that platform to something new, and not to, as you mentioned, be concerned about that, fearful about that. The opportunity, for me, you were blessed to have that access and opportunity. The question for me always is, what are you going to do with it? How do you leverage it forward? So I just say to you, I'm glad to be here. I said to a former colleague of mine, the second I saw that email, click, click, send, I will be there. So to your point, folks taking off time. This is important, and we can't say enough, and we need more of these gatherings to do the quality work that we need to do. But it comes down to how uncomfortable are we going to be in this to get right, to be able to say to ourselves that we're doing, we're congruent with what needs to be done. And little by little, day by day, we can get that done. And I'm committed to doing that. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
One last question, I think.
I just wanted to address you as a white mom to another white mom. I have an interesting experience because all of my children are biracial, so I kind of see life through their eyes, but then also as a white mom. So I see their experiences in classrooms, but I'm also very aware of kind of how things come to be. And what I would encourage is that it's a lot easier when you're talking about racism to kids if you can say, well, kid of mine, white child of mine, you know, your friend Ivan might experience this or that. It's a lot easier to talk in specifics if you have intentionality from the beginning. So you have to look at, what do your birthday parties look like? What do your coffee dates look like? If that little kid, if your little kid already has connections, then when you're talking about things, you're not talking in a generic sense. You're saying, hey, you know, this is happening, and you know your friend, this might be their experience. That's how you start to root empathy in them. When you're talking in general terms, the reason you're having to talk in general terms is because they're all out there. You have no specifics to talk about. You have no personal connections or relationships. I see this in my daughter's class right now taking hold, because she's biracial, and her best friend is Ethiopian, and they stay to each other, and they're happy that way. They're fine with that. But there's a little group of white girls that are kind of starting to root as a clique, and I can see them. These are nice little girls. These are fine little girls. They have the best intentions, but their mothers, their parents are not being intentional about saying, your birthday party's coming up, but what about Sarai? My daughter is Sarai. What about Sarai? What about Joanna? You know, let's invite them too. And if the daughter says, no thanks, you say, yeah, actually we're going to do that. You're the parent, you lead. Yeah, you are going to do that, and guess what? They'll play together, they'll have fun, and they'll start to root friendships, and then they'll be able to bloom into advocates and activists, and pretty soon what you'll have is experiences and memories and true authenticity in those relationships. And that's where you'll get a little fighter who will fight for those friends when society is trying to hurt them. That's what I want for my children. I want other white children in their classrooms to be fighters for them when eventually they're going to have to start going out into the world and having that opposition push back. Our culture, by the way, that's our culture pushing that opposition. It's not random, it's us. So it's your job as a white person, it's my job as a white person to start to be intentional about changing our culture so that we're not so awful to everybody else. That's it.
I'm gonna let you drop the mic on that. All right. I think that's probably time. There was gonna be one more exercise. Do we have time? We can leave it there. All right. Thank you all very much, man. The word of the day is love.
Yes, another round of applause for Ivan, please.